The Pasig River wasn't always a boundary between the chaos of a modern city. Long before it was choked by concrete and smog, it was a central nervous system. Before the first Spanish galleon ever crested the horizon, this water didn't just flow, it carried. It carried the weight of a civilization that didn't need stone walls to prove it existed. This was the Bayan of Tondo. For many, Philippine history feels like it starts with a cross and a sword in 1521. But you cannot discover a place that was already busy. In the 10th century, while much of Europe was huddling in the shadow of the Dark Ages, Tondo was already filing paperwork. It was a maritime powerhouse, a diplomatic hub, and a city of gold. To understand Tondo is to understand that the Filipino identity isn't a colonial invention. It is an ancient layer of sediment, buried just beneath the surface, waiting for the river to pull the mud away. For decades, critics argued that pre-colonial Philippines was just a collection of scattered, disconnected tribes. That changed in 1989 at the Lumban River. A sand dredger pulled up a thin, blackened piece of metal. It looked like trash. It was actually the Laguna Copperplate Inscription. Dated precisely to Monday, April 21st, 900 AD, this document is a legal discharge of debt. It's written in a sophisticated mix of Sanskrit, Old Javanese, and Old Tagalog. This single artifact shattered the primitive myth. It tells us three things. 1. Literacy. They had a complex writing system. 2. Law. They had a court system that recognized debts and legal pardons. 3. Geography. It mentions places like Lumban, Tondo, Pila, and Binwangan. These weren't isolated huts. They were nodes in a massive, organized network. Tondo was the seat of power that authorized these legal acts. This was a society that valued order and record-keeping 5 centuries before the West arrived. When the Spanish chroniclers finally stepped into the Tondo region, they were confused. They expected to find savages. Instead, they found people covered in gold. In Tondo, gold wasn't just money, it was a social language. They wore gold sashes that weighed kilograms. They wore gold pusad, ornaments pegged into their teeth. This wasn't just vanity, it was a display of kalayaan and status. Why so much gold? Because Tondo sat at the mouth of the river. They controlled the flow of goods from the gold-rich mountains of the north to the foreign ships in the bay. They were the middlemen of the east. Chinese records from the Ming dynasty describe Tondo as a wealthy polity that sent regular diplomatic missions to the emperor. They didn't come as beggars, they came as peers, trading pearls, beeswax, and medicinal plants for fine porcelain and silk. We often use the word kingdom, but Tondo was a bayan. The leader was the Lakan. Unlike European kings who claimed divine right to rule by force, a Lakan's power was fluid. A Lakan was a supreme negotiator. Their authority was built on a web of alliances called sandugo, blood compacts. If a Lakan couldn't provide wealth or protection, their followers would simply move to another bayan. The society was divided into the Maginoo, nobles, the Timawa, freemen, and the Alipin, dependents. But this wasn't the slavery we see in the West. Alipins could own property, get married, and even buy their way into the nobility. It was a world where social mobility was possible through trade, bravery, and wisdom. And at the center of it all were the Babaylan, the spiritual bridge. They were the healers and the astronomers. They ensured that while the Lakan handled the gold, the Bayan stayed in harmony with the spirits of the land and the water. By the 15th century, Tondo faced its first major shift. Across the river, a new Islamic-influenced power rose, Maynila. Led by Raja Soliman and supported by the Sultanate of Brunei, Maynila began to eclipse Tondo's trade monopoly. When the Spanish fleet, led by Martin de Goiti and Miguel López de Legazpi, arrived in 1571, they walked into a region already tense with rivalry. The Spanish didn't just conquer, they leveraged. They used the existing fractures between local leaders to wedge themselves in. Tondo didn't fall in a single cinematic battle. It was a slow erasure. The great wooden halls of the Lakan were replaced by the stone walls of Intramuros. The Lakans were stripped of their titles and turned into cabezas de barangay, tax collectors for the Spanish crown. The global trade hub was reorganized to serve only one destination, Acapulco. Today, Tondo is known as one of the most densely populated places on Earth, often associated with poverty. But if you look at the river, the same Pasig River that still flows, you realize that history is just a series of layers. Spain didn't start the clock. They simply walked into a room where a sophisticated conversation had been going on for 1,000 years. The gold is still there, not in the dirt, but in the resilience of the people who still live at the mouth of the river. History didn't begin with an arrival, it began with an awakening, and the Bayan of Tondo is finally waking up. The truth is hidden in plain sight. Follow the Mindcrate Hub as we unbox history.